Hey everyone, welcome back to our channel. If you're new here, please subscribe. I'd really love that. If you're returning, how you doing? So I stumbled across this and it's about darn time. It's about darn time that somebody puts those elites in Davos in their place. No joke. And I am so happy that it finally truly happened. So it's this guy. His name is Kevin Roberts, okay? And he is the president of the conservative think tank. It's called the Heritage Foundation. And he spoke to the globalists of the WEF confab and told them directly that you are part of the problem. You are not the solution. He said, I'm going to be candid with you. The agenda that every single person member of the administration needs to have is to compile a list of everything that has ever been proposed at the WEF and object all of them wholesale. He further urged that anyone not prepared to do that and take away this power of the unelected bureaucrats and give it back to the American people is unprepared to be a part of the next conservative administration. So when discussed, when the discussion really turned to 45 and they started talking about 45 and stuff like that. He said, this guy, because he stood up for not just 45, he stood up for the Americans too. He said, it's quite laughable that you or anyone else would describe Davos as protecting liberal democracy. He said it's equally laughable to use the word dictatorship at Davos and aim that at 45. I think it's absurd. And he is so right. I was like going, yeah, because I watched the entire video. It's like an hour long, but I have a snippet for you. And he continued to say, the very reason why I'm even here at Davos is to explain to the many people that are in this room or even watching, the video or whatever the case may be, with all due respect, it's nothing personal. You are the problem. He said the political elites tell the average people, like me and you, right on, that the reality is X, when in fact the reality is Y. And he goes on and he gives like several examples of this, that, and the other in regards to like the southern border, different issues. And it was like the constant like guilt trip that elites subject us, everyday people, to over the existential threat of sea change, while they are total hypocrites in their own right. You know what I mean? Like they'll tell us, about our carbon footprint and this, that, and the other, but yet they're flying their own private jets, and it's absurd. So just take a listen, okay, to what this guy said. And I was literally cheering him on because I was so happy that finally someone literally got in these elites' faces and told them what was what horse to get on and how to get to where they're supposed to go.
Let me come back. Kevin, let me come to you because I said it's quite good in the way the jury set it up. What did the president, what do you think, President Trump, he's the president from being the former president, but if there were a new President Trump, what does he mean by retribution? What is the issue, calling out very specifically a former Attorney General and former Chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff and so on? I mean, it sounds very personal. And you said yourself a minute ago, anyone who's kind of not with the program is not going to be in an administration. One thing that Davos, you might say, and the people come here stand up for, is liberal democracy. So if the idea that's going to be swept under the table is part of the idea, hopefully that's not what he means. What do you mean? What do you think he means by retribution?
Well, it's laughable that you would, or anyone would, describe Davos as protecting liberal democracy. It's equally,
standing up for it.
It's equally laughable to use the word dictatorship at Davos and aim that at President Trump. In fact, I think that's absurd. But I'm going to step aside from that constructive criticism and instead answer your question.
Yep.
And I'm going to be substantive here. President Trump, if he's the next president, for that matter, I think whoever the next conservative president is going to take on the power of the elites, which I've mentioned earlier. But the thing that I want to drive home here, the very reason that I'm here at Davos, is to explain to many people in this room and who are watching, with all due respect, nothing personal, but that you're part of the problem. Political elites tell the average people on 3 or 4 or 5 issues that the reality is X, when in fact reality is Y. Take immigration. Elites tell us that open borders and even illegal immigration are okay. The average person tells us in the United States that both rob them of the American way of life. They're right. President Trump will take that on behalf of the average American. Elites also tell us that public safety isn't a problem in big American cities. Just travel to New York or Washington or Dallas, Texas. The average person will tell you that the lack of public safety damages not just the American way of life, but their life. President Trump will take that on. Thirdly, I guess the favorite at the World Economic Forum is climate change. Elites tell us that we have this existential crisis with so-called climate change, so much so that climate alarmism is probably the greatest cause for mental health crisis in the world. The solutions, the average person know, based on climate change, are far worse and more harmful and cost more human lives, especially in Europe during the time that you need heating, than do the problem and the problems themselves. Fourth, 2 more here, Robin. Okay. The fourth, China. The number one adversary, not just to the United States, but to free people on planet Earth. Not only do we at Davos not say that, we give the Chinese Communist Party a platform. Count on President Trump ending that nonsense. And fifth, as we sit here, another supranational organization, the World Health Organization, is discussing foisting gender ideology upon the global South. These are practices that are under review, if not being rejected, by countries in Northern Europe. The new president, especially if it's President Trump, will, as you like to say, trust the science. He will understand the basic biological reality of manhood and womanhood. And do you know why? Not because of retribution, not because he's a dictator, but because he has the power of the American people behind him. And it's connected to Senator Portman's excellent point that in addition to needing a vigorous executive, we look forward to having the popular will inform both the House and Senate in 2025 to pass laws on all of those issues and many others. Ultimately, Robin, I think President Trump, if in fact he wins a second term, is going to be inspired by the wise words of Javier Milei, who said that he was in power not to guide sheep, but to awaken lions. That's what the average American and the average free person on planet Earth wants out of leaders.
Very clear points, and that'll give a chance for everyone to come back, including on the Q&A and any particular issues they want to challenge. The one thing I will challenge, we can come back to it later on, Kevin, is what will be the mandate of the American people if, A, the mandate tends to be not a plurality of the vote.
If he wins the election, the mandate's clear.
Kevin keeps saying if he wins the election. Can I ask Kevin, is there any conceivable way in which if he loses the election, he will accept that he's lost the election, or whether you would accept that?
What was the last part?
Would you accept if he loses the election that he's lost the election, or would it be like last time?
If we're sure that there's election integrity, but I'm not sure that we can be.
I
think you've answered my question there.
We're not going to get to the end of that one, so park that one for the moment. I want to first bring in Rob.
Now, I know, I get it, okay? It's surprising to see people get even invited to speak at the WEF and then literally blast these people right to their face. You know, I can only imagine the elites and the globalists and they're, conducting closer research of their enemies, and it's just, I could just imagine the look on their faces and what was going through their heads, like, this guy, There was a piece that was written before the panel discussion, right? And Roberts, the guy who, blasted these people, he said, The infamous, hypocritical, self-avowed Marxists, private jet environmentalists, and genocide-adjacent humanitarians want to hear from the Heritage Foundation how they can rebuild trust with everyday Americans against whom they have weaponized their institutions. You know, usually it's just close fantasizing about giving everyone brain implants and doing away with democratic selections. But I am just amazed that somebody was actually able to finally do it and tell them what we've all been thinking. You know what I mean? All right, guys, I'm out of here. I'll see you in the next one, okay? You stay safe, you stay positive, you keep prepping. And as always, fearless.